Hey guys, this is the Marabou Laser Legal. This is a take off of one of my favorite patterns of all time, which is the Laser Legal created by Kelly Gallup. This is one of my most productive patterns, and I've caught a huge amount of trout and smallmouth bass on this particular pattern. The cool thing is, you really only have to worry about having three different materials. We've got the marabou, I've got ice dub in two different colors, and then a laser dub for the cheek and for the belly itself. There's two different hooks in it, right? There's a Daiichi, there's a Gamakatsu, and there's a 3/16 bead on the front. The nice thing is, with this 3/16 bead and with so little materials, it loves to go up and down in the water and jig like crazy. The other thing with the articulation in the back, it'll move side to side. And when you put it in a river or a lake, especially a river where there's conflicting currents, it moves and it looks just like a minnow, and it absolutely comes alive and it drives the fish crazy. So, without further ado, let's get tying. All right, let's get tying. I'm going to start with the Daiichi 2460, size number 6, and I'm using a Vivis 100 gel spun, GSP. I'm bringing my thread all the way back to the bend, basically, and going to start with the body. This is an ice dub in pearl, and we're going to build a taper for the body itself. So I'm just going to start by grabbing about a 1/4 inch of material. I'm dubbing it onto my GSP, and now I'm just walking up, and like I said, I'm going to build a taper. So I grabbed about 1/8 of an inch on the last, and now I'm just going to grab a little bit more or the same amount, and you're just going to go back on it. It's up to you how you want to do it. In this case, I'm going to go back over top of it just again to build a little bit of a taper. And it's okay if you run that GSP through it. That's basically going to help protect your fly so that when it does get chewed on, because it will, to ensure that it doesn't get ripped apart. So I've come up halfway the hook. You can see we've developed a little bit of a taper across there. And now the next material I'm going to use for the belly is ice dub in UV pearl. Basically got about a 1/4 inch of material here. And I'm just going to pinch it between my fingers. I'm going to wrap it over the thread, and then I'm going to cup it underneath and pull up and just basically lock it into position. I'm going to bring the material back and looking at a 50-50 split, 50 on the left, 50 on the right. And I'm not going to worry about tying it in or trimming it at this point, sorry. Just want to make sure that it's in position. So I'm grabbing some more ice dub in pearl, and I'm basically going to go right up the hook shank. Again, we're trying to create a little bit of a taper. And when you think about a minnow body, you know they start skinny in the back and they get chunkier as you move forward. So that's what I'm trying to do. Taking my time. Again, it's okay if you go through with the GSP. And I'm just going to grab a little bit more material to get it right up to the head, and to make sure that, again, it's a little bit chunky in there. All right, so that looks good. I just pulled off some excess, peeling it back, just gonna wrap over top. All right, I'm gonna do the belly again. I'm using ice dub UV pearl, again, pinching about a 1/4 of an inch, just pulling it out. That looks like it's a little more, but I'll save that for the next bunch. Again, making sure that it's all aligned, pinching it between my thumb and my pointer, cupping it underneath, pulling it back, wrapping on top. Okay, so next, it's time for the marabou. This happens to be Nature Spirit. This is Sculpin Olive in UV. And what I'm doing, I'm basically grabbing about a 3/4 inch worth of material. You can see these fibers are a little bit chunkier. That's what I'm looking for. I'm not looking for the super wispy fibers. Pinching them. And where I want this marabou to end is right at the hook bend itself. I don't want it to go beyond. And I'm gonna do 2 loose wraps. Bring the material back on top. Come in front. Cinch it down. I'm gonna twist the marabou clip as close as I can. And I think I want a little bit more. So I'm just gonna go back. Got some marabou here. And again, I don't want the back to be super thick, but I don't want it to be super skinny either. Again, we're looking to try and maintain a tail and a body taper, and so we don't want to start with super heavy materials on the back of the hook, or it's just not going to look realistic at all. Okay, materials are in position. I'm grabbing just a Copic marker. This one happens to be olive. Any sort of green marker to color the thread will do. And I'm just gonna wrap over a couple times, and then we're gonna hit it with Gorilla Glue and lock everything into position. Okay, so that looks really nice. I'm very happy with that. I've got my Gorilla Glue here, and I'm just gonna hit about 1 inch of it with a very fine coating of super glue. I'm gonna wrap back over top, trying to make sure that I cover all the head. Looks nice. Now I'm just gonna grab my razor blade. To heck with whip finish. You can do it if you want. I haven't done it. It works just fine. All right, so next step, I'm gonna use the Orvis 25-pound mono, cut off about a 4-inch section. And on there, I put on some Michaels 6/0 glass beads. Basically just pull in, get a little tension on there. I've got 2 of those 6/0 beads on there in silver. All right, next I'm using a B10S in size number 8. And I'm using, it's from Gamakatsu, and I'm using some tungsten beads in 3/16 or 1 tungsten bead. All right, time to attach the back. Very quick, lay down some thread. Grab my mono. Lay it right alongside the hook across the back. Do a couple loose wraps, line things up. Make sure that your gap here is at least 1/2 inch. Looks like it's a little bit more than 1/2 inch, which is fine. Cinching down the mono. Hitting it with the Gorilla Glue. Gonna clamp that back part so it stays out of the way. Fold that mono over. Just basically walk right back on top. Pause with a little bit left, clip, and now just finish wrapping, going back and forth. Okay, good. All right, next, I'm just gonna create basically a little dubbing ball. I'm using my ice dub pearl. And the idea with this, and I grabbed about a 1/4 inch of material, is just to create a little bit of a dubbing ball. And what that'll allow is for the material to splay out around the articulation itself. And you'll see what I mean. It's pretty cool. So I'm gonna start with my belly material, which is the ice dub in UV pearl. Again, grabbing about a 1/4 inch, maybe just a little bit more, because we're trying to create a taper. Pinching it, creating that cup on the bottom, coming right up underneath, and just basically wrapping down. Again, we're going to worry about the taper, but what you can see is by having that little bit of a dubbing ball, what it's going to do, even when it comes back, is that it's going to keep it from wrapping around and or stopping the articulation. So back to my Marabou, the UV sculpin. I've got one of my feathers. Again, I want a little bit more of a taper. So I think I grabbed about 3/4 of an inch worth last time. I'm going to grab about an inch worth this time. Looks good. Pinching the materials, trying to make sure that they're still aligned at the tips themselves. Going to go back so that the tips are to the front of the hook. 2 loose wraps, just basically pulling up to make sure that they're locked into position. Looks good. Coming in front with some hard wraps, and then I'm just going to trim and walk back the thread, locking everything in and everything down. And again, what you'll notice is that because of that little dubbing ball, it's kept that Marabou coming right off at a nice angle. Okay, very happy with that. Gonna grab my body, so the ice dub pearl. Again, grabbed about 1/4 inch. Did a loose dub. Coming forward. And I'm gonna put a little bit more on there because again, I want this to be the fattest part of the minnow itself. Grabbing about 1/8 of an inch worth of fibers, and I'm just gonna make sure the front of this has got some chunk to it. Okay, looks good. At the head, what I'm gonna use for the belly though now is laser dub in white. Gonna grab about 1/4 inch of material. Same exact application, pinching it between my fingers, wrapping it around the hook, creating that cup on the bottom, and making sure that it gets in there. Loose wraps, couple tight wraps at the head. Again, we're gonna worry about the trimming when we're all done. Next, we're going to put on some more Marabou across the top in the UV sculpin olive. And this has got to be the heaviest amount. So I've done about 1 inch. So now I'm just going to strip off about 1 1/4 inches. And what I'm noticing is that these fibers are a little bit wispier on the end. So I have to pay special attention to make sure that I still have a greater density. And I'm going to come back about half the distance. And what I can see right away is, even though I grabbed more material, is that it is not as thick as the back. So I'm gonna clip, and I'm gonna put some more Marabou in there. So from the same plume, I'm gonna grab off about another inch. Oh, there goes my super glue. Again, just aligning those tips. And pulling everything into position, making sure that it's on top, wrapping in front, trimming as close as I can, just double checking. Yep, I got some feathers off to the side here. Just going to trim them, and they're going to be covered up in just a second, but just being very anal retentive, just take a minute to trim them off. Okay, that looks good. And I'm just going to add one other piece to this fly. It's lavender. Gives a really nice cheek flash, I would say. And I grabbed about 1/4 inch. You can see it's a thin layer. I'm going to cut it in half to ensure I get the exact amount on left and right. So I just did a 50-50 cut. I've got the same technique. I'm going to put it over, pull it right to the side. I'm laying it right on the side of that cheek. And that's what it's that's what it's imitating. It's imitating a cheek on a little baitfish. And it really looks good. I'm going to do the exact same thing over here. I can see I've got some materials that have gone sideways. I'm just going to clip them out. Again, I want to maintain that side profile. I want the fish to be able to see that body, and I don't want that marabou going over on the other side. Okay, I've got that lavender again, that other 50% that I'd grabbed, putting it over. Looks like I captured some material on that. I do not want to do that. Again, bending it over the top, coming right where I want it to lay down, locking it into position, and then just doing some tight wraps to secure it. Getting rid of that other little random piece of marabou that showed up. And I'm double checking here to make sure that nothing moved. It looks good. Everything is in position before I apply glue, because that's the next step. So next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my last little bit of ice dub pearl. I'm just going to grab a very small amount. I don't know, maybe there's 10, 15 strands max in there. I'm going to dub it on. And in front of that, I left about 1/4 inch or so. I'm going to dig my glue out of the garbage can. And on that 1/4 inch space, now I'm just going to hit it with super glue. And then just a little bit on the back too, like 1/8 of an inch there. Okay. Now it's time to be careful, take the time, make sure materials don't move, make sure you have things locked in position where you want them, because once this glue gets on and it locks, that's it. All right, looks excellent. I'm just going to take my razor blade, cut it off, grab my Velcro, come through the fly entirely. Time to trim everything, but before I trim, I want to make sure that as many of the fibers as possible are out and about. Okay, for trimming purposes, I usually take it out of the vise. I'm going to try to do it in the vise so you guys can see. I'm angling at a 45-degree angle for the throat, basically trimming down so that when this lays back, it doesn't impede the hook at all. The cheek looks good. It's not too long. And for the rest of it, I got to take it out of the vise. So what I'm looking at here is, one, I don't want anything getting in the way of the articulation, so I'm gonna start trimming, and I'm also going to create the minnow shape, which we know curves this way. So trimming for the minnow shape, and we already have the taper with the marabou itself. Just gonna trim a little bit more. Off the back, I want that to end with the end of the marabou, so I don't want it going longer. And now that I have the general shape and taper, I'm going to take my anvil taperizing scissors, and I'm just going to eliminate some of that additional material, and I'm going to trim some of it off. And you probably don't have to do this step. It's just me. I'm always concerned about taper and always want there to be translucency with the fly itself. All right, that looks good. Just one last time, I'm gonna lay materials back, take a peek. Nothing's getting in the way of the articulation, which is perfect. Very happy with how it looks. I'm going to put it back in the vise so you guys can see it. And that's it. That's the Marabou Laser Legal. This thing is awesome. Hope that helps you out.